I think what's important when I speak is I like them to learn something that they didn't know when I started. I mean, I'm really interested in providing information. I have a huge amount of information. As the chairman of O'Leary Funds, I invest globally, so I've got a lot of economic data that I think most audience, regardless of what sector they're in, are going to find interesting. And then, of course, there's always the question I get, why do you do TV? And I always make sure I answer that question, too. I want them to learn at least one thing that enhances their ability to do their job. I mean, I don't care who I'm speaking to, they go to work the next morning. I want them to learn something from me that makes them better at what they do. That's really what I focus on. I like all audiences because I'll tell you the truth, I learned something too. You know, I've spoken to such a diverse base of individuals all around the world from every single sector. I can't think of a sector I haven't talked to. I learned a tremendous amount. It's a two-way dialogue, and I think that energy is important when you give a presentation. But I always make sure I come with something specific to what they do, something they didn't know. Maybe their customers told me, maybe other competitors told me, maybe the government told me, but something they didn't know that I can tell them, so they get more information. That's the real value in a presentation. I do a tremendous amount of research. You know, what I find is the best thing to do is when you know who you're going to speak with, do a pre-call about 3 weeks beforehand. Talk to the organizers, understand what the theme of the conference is or what the presentation's about, and then go to town and do your homework. I like to call customers. I like to call other companies in the same sector. I like to call the government to see what regulations are coming. And I like to find out what's happening in the entire sector globally. So that I distill down a whole bunch of information. I always start that presentation in that part of the speech, and I say, don't shoot the messenger. Here's some things you may not know that I found out on a no-names basis when they found out I was going to do a presentation to this sector. You'd be amazed what I've learned. And it's always really interesting because sometimes it's very surprising. Sometimes it supports their thesis, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always very informative, and it creates a dialogue. And you can see it come up in the Q&A afterwards because this data is brand new, raw, and very, very specific. You know, I've done many memorable events, but I won't forget the ones I did to the Home Builders Association because it was a very interesting presentation. We were talking about interest rates. I didn't realize when I started my research how many jobs home building creates in this country. And I don't think that organization knew either on a national basis that they were such a powerful political force. And I think as we went through that presentation together and the lobby groups that were in that room, we all came to the conclusion, what a fantastic message this is. So there was a chance when I gave a presentation that I think actually affected the policy for next year for that organization. Not because I was dictating it, it's the research I brought in. It's the amazing amount of information I was able to get before the presentation, highlighted it there, and as I sat with the policymakers afterwards, when we were just breaking down that presentation, they said, wow, you're right. We've got to go to government and say, there's 68,000 jobs in this city alone. You got to listen to us. And I think they're doing that right now. That was a great moment for me. I really felt like I added value.